Okay, so then, of course, there's another great scene with Sam. Sam just, like, steals the whole movie. And Sean Astin, I swear to God, he could have been nominated for supporting actor, but, oh well. Tim Robbins won that year, so I guess that's okay. That's good for him, of course. He's a great actor as well. Shawshank Redemption all the way, man. Yeah, that's a great film. Sam carries Frodo. It's the best, one of the best scenes of Sam and Frodo, just kind of their journey. You know, because, you know, Frodo's ready to give up, and, you know, he says, I miss the Shire and everything, and Sam says, I can't, you know, he's talking about the ring, I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. Just, oh man, there's nothing, you know, except for Legolas and the Oliphant and stuff like that, that tops that. I mean, if that scene had been cut out, oh, we would have, I just would have been, if I would have then seen the extended cuts, maybe earlier, I just would have been brought to tears over the fact that they cut it out. And we couldn't see it on the big screen. So, and that would have taken its place, though. But then again, maybe there were a few scenes here and there in other films that would have topped that, but okay. And then, you know, the final charge as the battle begins at the gate, the Black Gate, and Gollum returns as well, and everything just seems to be going wrong. You know, but then, and then Gandalf kind of looks off to the side and he sees this little butterfly, and it's a nice little look back to the first film when Gandalf was saved in Isengard, and that was, of course, when an eagle carried him to Rivendell. But here, the eagles come and they save him again, except here they take out the Black Riders, who seem to be the one thing that could just kill everybody. And, of course, Frodo's final temptation comes. It's the Crack of Doom, you know. And that was actually the title of the video game scene, which is another hard level. Everything on Sam and Frodo's journey in that video game was so blessed hard. It's unbelievable. But Frodo's final temptation, the ring, he's about ready to let it go. And he turns to Sam and he says, "The ring is mine." And he takes it off the little chain he's got and he just puts it on his finger, and it's just like, "No, you fool!" And then, of course, Gollum, in one of the funniest scenes in the film, starts to ride Frodo. I swear to God, not sexually, no. But he gets on his neck, and it's, of course, Frodo's invisible, so we can't see him. And it looks like Frodo, you know, Gollum's kind of like galloping on a horse that's not even there. It's got to be one of the funniest scenes. And he bites off Frodo's finger, and he gets the ring for himself. And we are just like, frick, no! You know, what's worse, Gollum getting the ring and keeping it to himself while he lets Mordor cover everybody in darkness? He's hidden away in the misty mountains where nobody would ever look for him. Or, you know, if, you know, that's the worst case scenario, you know. So, and then, of course, Frodo comes up and he pushes him off the chasm, but he falls too. And it's another, like I mentioned in Skyfall, there's kind of a scene similar to that, but except it ends up a little different. And we see Gollum fall in, and we're just like, yes! You know, of course Gollum's a great character and everything, and we want to see him die, but at the same time we're kind of sad to see him die, because we don't get any more scenes with Gollum. Oh well, but then he dies, and the ring, you know, gets melted away, and Frodo is still at the same time hanging over. And he's exhausted at this point, and he's barely holding on, and he's got one hand, Sam's got one hand of his, but the other one kind of slips away, and he's just like, I don't even want to, try this, I just want to just be done, what's left, the ring is gone, pretty much, so, and then Sam says, don't let go, and he pulls him up, and the eye falls, and the eye of Sauron falls, and everybody in the army starts crying, and, just from, oh my God, Frodo did it, It's kind of like, no, I'm not even going to make that, because some people are going to be offended, so no, I won't say that. But yeah, and then there's this thing where the eye is falling, all these people, the orcs and stuff are dying, and the Black Gate falls, and then like this big earthquake or whatever. At the same time, frickin' stupid, Frodo and Sam are still sitting there in Mount Doom, and as Mount Doom starts to, rise up in all the lava and stuff and erupt, they're still in the middle of the frickin' thing. Run, you dumb hobbits. God, I don't know, it's like they're inches away from death, and now they decide to start running. It's like, you idiots, God. But then, And then Frodo gives this last speech, kind of, or one of the last speeches in the film, where he says, you know, I'm glad I'm with you here at the end of all things, you know, because they're supposedly going to die here because, you know, for all they know, the Fellowship's dead. You know, Gondor is defeated, or Helm's Deep possibly. Rohan is defeated. They don't even know if they made it that far. And, you know, just everything is hopeless. We're just going to die here. And I swear to God, the first time I saw this in the theater, I had no idea what was going to happen. There was this shot, the next shot, after it kind of cuts to black, is back a little further and you barely see their bodies. I swear to God, when I first saw this film, I almost ripped up in tears because I thought they were two skeletons. But no, they're both there. It looked like two skeletons. I'm just like, no! How dare they? You know, but yeah. Of course, my little 8-year-old self, no, how dare they? You know, that kind of thing. But yeah, and then the eagles swoop in, they save him, and then we cut back to to the Shire, or no, it's actually, sorry, Rivendell. Yeah, that's right, Rivendell. And the Fellowship is united at last, except for Boromir, who's dead. And here, you know, Frodo thinks all this time, and of course we almost forget this, we think Frodo is still burdened by the pain that Gandalf is dead. That the person who started him on this journey didn't see him to the end. And then he wakes up and he sees Gandalf. And he, you know, at first he probably thinks it's a dream, but then he sees Merry and Pippin. And that gives him hope. And then he sees Gimli walk in. And then he sees Legolas walk in. Then he sees Aragorn walk in. And he knows Boromir's dead. He knows Boromir's not going to be there. But there we have 6, 7 of the 8 Fellowship members. And we say, oh my God, where's Sam? And then here, in the absolute, direction-wise, and also in the script, the best way you could ever do this, Sam walks in, casually, silent, almost with like this, you know, almost, you know, sad look on his face. And he's not, you know, and he's just like, still got this thing where, you know, and it's almost frightening the way he looks. And the first time I saw that scene, that's when the tears started to come. That's when everything was just like, oh, it was just, wow. Powerful, powerful stuff. When I was rewatching it, no, that's not where I cried, it's later on. But then again, people still today don't get over the last scene, which I'm going to talk about here in a second. And then Aragorn is pronounced king, he's given the crown, and finally, for God's sakes, finally, the Romeo and Juliet story is resolved. And Arwen and Aragorn marry, and of course we know what their future is going to be like. And it's resolved, and the hobbits stand here in the middle, and they bow before the king, and then Aragorn says, no, no, my friends, you know, you bow to no one. Another amazing little shot, or not little shot, amazing sweet shot where everybody, you know, and there's millions of people, it seems, lined up here to see the new king of Gondor, the first in many a year. And here he and his wife, future wife, you could call her his fiancée, and everybody bows before 4 hobbits standing in the middle. And it's, to this day, one of the finest just images from film that I can think of when people say grand film, epic film, great film. One of the first things that comes to mind is the 4 hobbits standing there, looking around, and seeing thousands of men and women, twice or almost 3 times their size, bowing before them, honored by their presence. It's truly a speechless moment for me when I first saw that scene. I was just like, what could I describe besides perfect? It's wow, it's incredible stuff. And of course, there's this kind of funny thing where then it pulls back and it shows this map, of course, of Middle-earth, and we see Frodo and Sam and the trio, all the Fellowship's journey in reverse. We see them, you know, from Gondor. We see Mordor there in the back, and we see them cut back, and you know, we see Osgiliath, and we see, you know, and all this stuff, different stuff. We even see from the first film Weathertop and Bree, and finally, for the first time, if you calculate all the films out, I believe it's the first time in almost 8 hours, finally we're back home to the Fellowship. And the great sense of home that we got from the Fellowship of the Ring, of the Shire, is back. And we finally have it again. And Sam gets married, of course, and the other two hobbits. In the books, I hear they become respective warriors of, you know, Merry going to Rohan and Pippin going to Gondor. But with all evil defeated, I don't know what they could be fighting. I guess they just serve. And Frodo writes the book, The Lord of the Rings, and it's kind of tied in with Bilbo's book, The Hobbit, you know, A Hobbit's Tale, called There and Back Again. And, you know, he says there's a few pages left blank. And so now we'll get to the final scene in the entire trilogy, the most moving scene in the trilogy. One of the most moving scenes I've ever felt from a movie, but I can't say the most, since Forrest Gump is still in my recent memory. So okay, so now the final journey is here. You know, Bilbo's final journey is here, where he'll get on this ship and they'll sail, you know, away, sail into the sunset, basically. And you know, and Gandalf says, you know, my work is done, and it's kind of like this biblical reference, you know. And this, when I was watching this again now, the first time actually in a little while, that's when it suddenly hit me, you know. You know, Gandalf going away, and the hobbits are really saddened, you know. And it's just, it hit me. I was like, oh, Gandalf. And it sucks. It's one of those moments where you're just like, oh, that sucks. But it affects you more because you've been seeing this guy do amazing work throughout this, not only the actor doing amazing work, but the character doing amazing things all throughout this trilogy. But now he says, well, everything I've meant to do has been done. I don't know what else to do. I got to sail into the sunset. I got to sail into the sunset. Sorry, I've got the hat on. And he says goodbye to each of the hobbits, and Bilbo climbs aboard, and the three elves, you know, climb on board. The three elves with the rings, of course, from the first scene from Fellowship of the Ring. That's all tied back together and tied up really nice in a big bow. And you know, and with Galadriel, Celeborn, and Elrond, the three elf ring bearers. And Frodo is called, and he's called over to, no, I call him on my phone, no, he's called over to the ships, you know, and they say, you know, you come with us too, you know. And that scene, when I was in the theater, I swear to God, I almost felt like I had to leave the theater from embarrassment of being this 8-year-old kid crying so hard at a scene like this. But of course, my mother was actually there with me. She was crying or bawling her eyes out too. But yeah, and then he kisses Sam on the forehead, and he, you know, gives him the book and says there's a few pages left, you know, and they're meant for you, and the adventure will continue with Sam. And as Frodo sails off into the sunset, he you know, and with the rest of them, the three hobbits left behind, you know, go back to their homes, and you know, Sam goes back to his family. It's a few years later. He's got a family now. And we see that the adventure does continue with him. The few pages left will be Sam's story. And that will, of course, be a story of peace. A story of telling his children the story of the Lord of the Rings. Okay, let's get to the recap here. I feel like we're really getting close on time here. I don't want this review to run on for too long, even though it's great that I get to do this for this amount of time and point out every last thing I want to point out. 10 out of 10. What can I say? It's an Oscar winner, for God's sakes. An Oscar winner, of course, deserves to be a great film, but 11 Oscars. That tells you something. That tells you this is a special film. A film that absolutely will carry on for generations hence as a respected piece of filmmaking. Peter Jackson, of course, won Best Director for the film. And it's probably, people say, of course, the Best Picture win was the most deserving. No. Peter Jackson's direction was the most deserving Academy Award that film got. People say the special effects. Of course, yes, they were amazing. The musical score and the song, yes, they're both just spectacular. The direction, that's where it all began. It began 4 years before that. Actually, a few years earlier than that, in 1997, actually, when Peter Jackson first was, was given this tremendous burden of, in a way, like The Ring, of directing 3 films all at the same time, and and setting out on this journey, like Frodo and Sam and the rest of the Fellowship, to complete this task and destroy this ring. Instead of destroying the ring, he's making 3 filmmaking epics of our time, and of course he does it with class, he does it with humor, and he does it with heart. And it's those 3 things those are the 3 key things that a director needs, both on the set, in their film, in their script. He needs them in order for the film to be a success. And definitely, since Lord of the Rings has all 3 in tons and tons and tons of weight all pulled together, he makes one of the grandest epic films of all time, and that is, of course, Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King. Okay, we'll get here to The Hobbit now. That's a quick recap, definitely. Okay, so The Hobbit's premiering in a few hours in America, at least. And right away I have to say that this is, besides actually The Dark Knight Rises, if you've seen my earlier channel, was number 2 on my top anticipated of this year list. And I've been reading a few of the early reviews. I have been, looking at the reaction to the 48 frames per second rate in the 3D and all that, which of course sucks. All I see in is 3D. You notice this? All I can see in is 3D, people. It sucks. I know what you mean. It sucks just being able to see in 3D. Yeah, but all I have to say is Peter Jackson knows what he's doing. If these people, definitely these people have this reaction to this film, I'm still going to like it no matter what. I don't care. I'm still going to like this film. I don't care. It's going to be good. I know it's going to be good. It's, one of the most anticipated films of the last few years. I've been waiting for a long time to see this book be made into a feature film. And of course they turned it into a trilogy, which at first we thought was great news, but then we, and then we heard that the film was 2 hours 45 minutes long, and we're just like, how did they make it 2 hours and 45 minutes long? When they, and of course the big deal is The Hobbit is 300 pages, and they're making it into a trilogy the length of Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings was 1,000 pages. How in the world are they going to do it? It seems an impossible task, and people have been saying, the 3D sucks, the 48 frames per second sucks, sometimes even the movie sucks, because it's so boring, and all that. Well, I'm still going to go see it tomorrow, and I'll have a review up, actually, probably close to, no, not this time tomorrow night, no way, I'll still be sitting there, hopefully not bored, but certainly the film comes out tomorrow. I read The Hobbit before I read Lord of the Rings, and I was like 7 years old when I read The Hobbit. I read it actually before Lord of the Rings: Return of the King came out, and it's still one of the best books I've ever read. It's absolutely fantastic, and I've been waiting for this day to come. Tomorrow, when the day to come, when finally I see Lord of the Rings prequel, The Hobbit. Finally, it's coming. It's coming, people. It's coming. Get excited for it. I'm excited for it. That's why I waited so long on this blessed review, because I want to see The Hobbit, and I want your suspense to be in with what I thought on Return of the King. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it no matter what. I'm going to see it tomorrow night. You'll have my review, and I guess that'll be it. So I'm going to be watching you, hopefully watching my channel still, and I'll be signing off here. And I hope you like The Hobbit, if you should go see it. And of course they're predicting it to make $100 million this weekend, so it'll be big. It'll be big. It'll be bigger than Skyfall, opening at least. And probably in its whole run, it's earning, approximately going to earn $1 billion at least. So definitely some money in the bank again for Peter Jackson. And let's hope. And of course, one last thing I have to say. Some people have actually been comparing this, the The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey to Phantom Menace. The first thing I feel from that is panic. But don't worry, there's no way it can be that bad. No way! Well, crap. Let's see if that holds up. Until tomorrow, let's hope The Hobbit lives up to our expectations.